Hi there friends, and welcome back to Soul Valley. Today, I'm going to build an anaerobic digester. Don't know what that means? Well, stick around and you'll find out later in the episode. But before I get to that, I'm currently standing in front of the iron farm that I built in the last episode, and currently it does not look very good. I need to do a lot of landscaping to make this area look nicer, so that is going to be the first thing I do. And the first part of that will involve building some paths to get to it. Up to this point, the paths that I've been making have been kind of a combination of mud bricks, granite, polished granite, and I need to connect this all the way over to there, and then also connect it to the newly created iron farm. There's a mangrove forest about 1,500 blocks north of my base here, which is where I've been going anytime I need to get mud. Currently, I have to travel that whole 1,500 blocks in the overworld, so today is going to be the perfect opportunity for me to grab some obsidian and build a nether portal in the mangrove forest. That way, in the future, it will be much easier for me to get there. And while I show this time lapse of me traveling to the mangrove swamp and collecting mud, I want to bring up a mistake that I made in my last video. I waited until the very end of the video during my outro to ask for suggestions for names for the 3 villagers and for the manager over at the recycling center. As I've come to learn, many people stopped paying attention during the outro, and because of that, I did not get a single comment with name suggestions. So if you're listening to this right now and you are paying attention, I would love for some name suggestions for the 3 villagers and for the manager over at the Iron Recycling Center. If you want to leave a comment, I would love to hear some names. Thank you in advance. Alright, it is now nighttime. I've got plenty of mud, and monsters are starting to spawn in the mangrove forest behind me. So I think it's time to venture into this nether portal and see where I end up, and make a connection between here and my home base portal. And right off the bat, I remembered that I do not have any gold armor on me, so I need to swap that out so that I don't get attacked by any piglins. And my home nether base coordinates are roughly 190 by -520. So that is this direction. Hey, look at that. It's a little baby piglin on a chicken. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's fun. And so, my nether base is right there, and my nether portal that leads to the mangrove forest is this direction, except it is way lower down. So I'm going to make my way to the coordinates where the nether portal is and bring it up to this level. Okay, and so I need to build the portal at coordinates 238 by -703 and -704, so that is, let's see, right here and right here. So these are the coordinates. I'll plop those down. Let's light it up. And let's step through and make sure that this connects to the... Oh, geez! Oh. The downside of... I didn't realize that I had turned off hostile mob sounds, so I did not hear that a ghast shot a fireball at me. That was a very scary moment. That's what I thought. Well, that was a fun little unexpected situation there. Now, as I was saying, let's step through here and make sure that this connects to the mangrove forest. Beautiful. We are connected. And to put things into perspective of where we are, if I just come up right over this ridge right here, my home base is right over here. And there it is. So now I have easy access to the mangrove forest, much closer than it was before when I had to travel 1,500 blocks in the overworld. Alright, and we are back I have filled up this bin with some mud bricks and packed mud that I crafted just now. I used up pretty much all of the wheat that I had left from when I was terraforming the big old wheat fields over there. I got a lot of wheat out of that, but I used up almost all of it to craft these mud bricks and packed mud. I also had to run over to the lush caves over there to grab more rooted dirt, so now I've got some granite, some polished granite, some rooted dirt, all the things that I use to make my paths. I hope this is going to be enough to make paths just connecting over to here and then over this way. We are about to find out. So let's hop into a time lapse and see if I've got enough resources to make this happen. And we have some completed paths. Let's take a look from above. So I'm standing kind of at the top of this cliff here. Let me sneak over to the edge. So it goes over to there, which when I finish this episode, you will know why I did that. But for now, it kind of goes through here. And then I'm going to build a path that connects to the front door. I just haven't done that yet because I need to redo this entire area. And that's just going to be part of when I do that area. And then I made a little passageway that goes through there. Let's run down and take a little look. And I made this path that works its way up the side of this hill here, up to the top of that retaining wall, which we also have a reason for that, which we will get to in a little bit. We've got this nice little path that comes through here, and it's getting to be nighttime. And then over here, if we come out in front of the main office, I made a path that goes all the way over here. And as of right now, I've only done the paths. I have not done any of the landscaping around it. So like over there, how I like to put a lot of plants and flowers and grass and things like that. But the next thing I want to do is fix this area over here. And I recently learned a fun fact. Again, just another example of me demonstrating how little I know about Minecraft. I was not aware that grass, short grass like this right here, would prevent an iron golem from spawning. I was under the impression that they could still spawn in this, but that is not the case. So to make it look a little nicer, the first thing I'm going to do is replace all of this with grass blocks and then put short grass on top of it. And that will ensure that they can't spawn. And then from there, I'll do even more decorating to actually make it look nice. But the first step is I just want to get short grass covering this from wall to wall. And I want to be sure that I don't miss a single spot. So rather than relying on bone meal, I am going to go out with shears and hand cut a ton of short grass until I have enough to fill all this. Oh, look, a wandering trader. What do you have? Nothing particularly appealing, but nice to see you. And now the next thing that I need to do is get a handful of shears and go out and get myself a lot of short grass. And I think that I'm going to go to the other side of this mountain here to harvest my grass, because I don't want to take grass from this area over here where I'm actually living. So I'm going to run to the other side of the mountain and get a whole bunch of grass. Ooh, wandering trader. I wonder if he's got anything good. Nope. Since this is kind of an industrial area, I thought something that might help to make more of an industrial look, and also to kind of cover up this hole in the ground, which, by the way, we've already got 20 more blocks of iron on top of, I think it was like 45 that I had already gotten, so this thing's running pretty efficiently. But I'm going to build some shipping containers, and I've got 3 different colors here. I've got orange terracotta, magenta terracotta, and warped stem that I'm actually going to strip. And I came up with a very simple design for some shipping crates that I think looks really cool, so let me go ahead and whip these up really quick. And one of the fun things about this build is the trapdoors make an easy way to get up as I need to make my way to the top and put down these last few trapdoors. And then I brought these with me to go right there. And now let's take a look from a distance at the shipping containers. And yeah, they're nothing too fancy or elaborate, nothing too technical, just something quick that, oh, looks like I missed one right here as well. That'll work. So yeah, just something quick that I whipped up. I went with these specific trapdoors, the Acacia, the Crimson, and the Warped, because they have stripes going through them. And a lot of times if you're looking at shipping containers, they have stripes, not really stripes, but they've got kind of grooves that run the length or the height of the shipping container. And I feel like this is kind of a good way to kind of imitate those grooves or those ridges that you see in shipping containers. At a bigger scale, you can use something, you know, like walls or other blocks, but I didn't want to make these too crazy large, and on a smaller scale, I thought that the trapdoors did a good job. I just thought that this was a fun take on shipping containers. I haven't seen anyone do this before. I'm not here to claim that I'm the first to ever do it. It's definitely possible someone's done this, but I've never seen anyone do this, and it's not very complicated, so something I had fun with. And now I have a way that should not open that way. That should open that way. There we go. Yeah. So now I've got an easy way to get down here and access my resources from my iron farm while still kind of hiding the hole in the ground in a way that looks nice. And it's also covered in trapdoors on all the top flat surfaces so that it's spawn proof. So I thought that was a fun addition to the iron farm. And I brought over my happy guest because I'm going to need his assistance for this next part of the build, which to get started, I'm going to run to the top of this mound. And I think it would be cool to kind of, add more of that industrial vibe. I want to put a little crane up here. So I'm just going to plop that down. That'll be the start of it. And then I'm going to work my way out. No, I don't want to go that way. How do I get it to face this direction? There we go. So let's just go a few blocks out. Okay. And then the next step is I need to work my way back this way. Okay, so we're starting to get the basic shape that I'm looking for. So now I need to build up kind of the center support column here. And I'm not like a crane expert. I don't know what the terms are, so I'm just calling this the support column. Don't judge me for not knowing what this is called. So we're going to put you there. I'm going to make it 3 tall. And then I basically need to recreate what I did down there up here. And you go there. Flip, flip, flip. So I'm kind of going for like an old school crane kind of look. So instead of all the advanced technology and machinery like modern day cranes have, I'm going for more like old school, just like some big gears are going to go right here and it's going to look like an old school crane. So I want to fit in with kind of the color scheme that I've got in the little iron farm house down here. So I'm going to use some brown glazed terracotta and jungle stairs to make some gears right here. So I did it like that because I kind of want these to look like spokes that are facing inward to kind of like a central point. And then I'm just going to kind of do the same thing with the stairs here where I go around. Okay. So there's one wheel. And I think that that works well. The color scheme, kind of, the darker spots, just like with the house down there, the darker spots blend with the dark oak wood, and then the lighter spots kind of blend with the jungle wood, and then the blue, just because I think the blue looks nice, and it kind of looks like spokes going towards a center ring. And now I'm going to make a second wheel up here. And now the second wheel is done. I just made them look identical. So now if we take a step back, it kind of looks like there are 2 wheels that kind of turn to move and operate the crane. I don't know crane mechanics. I'm not going to pretend to understand what's actually going on here, but there are two big wheels and there's a crane. The last thing it needs is the line that drops down, and that's where my happy guest comes in. So I'm going to take a little shortcut down here. And let's sneak through this little escape here and grab my happy guest. And now, with the assistance of my happy guest, I am going to add a line to this crane. Now, how's that look? All right, I think that does it. Let me get you back down to ground level. And there we have our crane. If we zoom in a little bit, we've got the line coming down, holding this thing, which is where it would attach to things. We've got the wheels to kind of spin it, turn it, make it move. So that would explain how those shipping crates got over there. And also, for the sake of the lore, we're going to say that this is where the iron golems are brought up to. So we've got this little road right here. Maybe there's a truck or some sort of special vehicle, or I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet, but somehow they come up here with the iron golem. The crane pivots over this way, which this is not a real crane, so I can't actually make it turn this way. I'm not that good at this game. But in theory, the crane would turn over here, pick up the iron golem, bring it back over here, and then lower it down into the water below. So I thought that was a fun touch that kind of adds to the more industrial vibe of being a recycling plant. I think it turned out pretty cool. And with the addition of the shipping crates and the crane up there, I do think this area is looking a lot better, especially now that I've replaced the path blocks with grass. It does look a lot nicer, but I still think it needs more. I think it needs some flowers, some plants, some rocks, just other decorative touches. But I am running pretty low on bone meal. Up to this point, I've been kind of utilizing the bone meal that I collected all the way back in episode 2 when I made the big cliff terraform back over there and tried that little experiment of turning the stone into moss. And that experiment was a little bit of a failure, if anyone remembers that. But it did yield me a lot of bone meal, so I've been using that. But at this point, I am almost out of bone meal. And so the next thing I'm going to build, which is going to be part of the recycling center, is a bone meal farm. And then once I build the anaerobic digester, which we also have not really fully discussed yet, I'm going to explain how all of it ties together to fit in with the recycling plant. But before I jump into any of that, I need to do a terraform. With that, our terraform is complete. I have expanded the wall, and I think our bone meal farm is complete. I have not yet tested it, but we'll get to that in a moment. But first, I did kind of extend the wall up here. Previously, it kind of ran low, and I thought it looked kind of weird because the hillside did go up higher, so I made the wall kind of match the hillside up there, and then I curved it around this way. And I'm actually going to go into FreeCam to kind of show this from a top angle. I think this looks a lot better than it looked before, the way that it just kind of went straight across here. I think adding this extra curve like this is a nice touch, and it feels more natural, feels like it fits in with the landscape more. And from here you can kind of see what I mean that I raised this section of the wall. So with that change, I think that the wall looks way better than it looked before. And if we hop over here, this bone meal farm is actually a farm that I found on YouTube by a YouTuber named Basic Redstone. They have a really good tutorial on how to build this, and I know in past episodes I've mentioned that when I build farms, oftentimes I like to come up with my own designs. This was an instance where this was already such a good design that it was kind of one of those things where why try to fix what's not broken? Why try to recreate the wheel, if you know what I mean? So this is not my own unique design. I will post a link to the video where I got this design, but I have not yet actually tested it to make sure that it works. I built it, but I have not turned it on, and I'm going to flip it on and see if it works. All right, it appears to be working. Now let's head down to the bottom and make sure things are working down here. And so essentially, this is our dispenser that's filled up with bone meal, and there is a complex system of redstone timers that go off, and essentially, oh, looks like it's got a leak in here. Oh well. It's got one timer that times the pistons that will trigger the stone to get pushed as it breaks the moss, gets picked up by the hoppers. They funnel into some composters that you can't see but are directly above these hoppers here. They get fed into here, and then a different timer will trigger this. And then when this triggers, it's going to bone meal this moss, and bone mealing the moss is what turns the stone up here into more moss. And it creates more bone meal than it uses, so it's a net positive. And I've got a chest here that will also collect a little bit of moss and other things. And then the bone meal makes its way down here. So whenever I need bone meal, I can come here, grab it from here, and then as it starts to back up, these hoppers will get filled up with bone meal as well. So I can just run down here, grab bone meal when I need it. I can also grab moss should I need it, which this is actually producing moss faster than it's making bone meal. I might need to rework this a little bit to slow down the moss production, because I'm more concerned with bone meal than I am for moss at the moment. And as a matter of fact, I think I will do that right now. So this hopper, instead of facing down into the chest, it will face into there. So now this is the only hopper that will collect moss. Every other hopper is going to turn it into bone meal. So that should create a significant amount of bone meal and still fill up with moss every now and again. Yeah, so this is still collecting moss. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this, and it's already getting bone meal a lot faster than it was before. So thank you to the YouTuber Basic Redstone for this tutorial. This is exactly what I needed, and it is working perfectly. And now it's time to do some resource gathering for all of the things that I'm going to need to build the Anaerobic Digester. And I think I should pretty much have everything that I need except for warped stem. I'm going to be using a lot of warped stem in this. So I'm gonna run back to my storage room, grab all the things that I do have, and then go out and harvest some warped stem, and if I need anything else, I'll grab that too. And I will be back shortly with all of my supplies to talk about the build. Here we are a short time later, after harvesting a decent amount of warped stems, and let's take a look at what is in this chest here. So I've got lots of polished tough slabs, various other tough items, got some prismarines. So let's talk about the color scheme that I'm going to be going with for this build. So this is going to be the color scheme. I want to start being a little more adventurous with my color schemes. I feel like I've kind of used a lot of kind of simple color schemes and not done much in terms of kind of blending one color into another. So I'm challenging myself for this to blend stripped warped stem into the stripped cherry wood. And to do that, I'm using prismarine and light gray concrete powder. The only downside to the prismarine is it does change colors, so if you sit and stare at it long enough, it'll change to different colors, and you know, sometimes there's more like cyan, sometimes there's more purple, sometimes there's more green. So like right now it's starting to turn kind of purple. So there will be times where this blend doesn't work as well, but I'm okay with that because when the blend does work, I think it looks really good. So it's going to be primarily stripped warped stem, which I made the mistake. I should have stripped this as I gathered it, but instead I got it in its raw form, and I'm just going to have to place and strip, place and strip, place and strip. That's going to be a little bit time consuming, but this is going to be the overall color scheme. There's just going to be a little bit of the stripped cherry logs sprinkled in. The bulk of it's going to be the stripped warped stem, and I'm really excited to see how this looks. And so now, let's hop into a building montage. I am a big fan of this color scheme. I think this turned out exactly how I wanted. I think that the stripped warped stem blends perfectly into the prismarine and then into the light gray concrete powder and then to the cherry, especially from a distance. I think that works really well. And I just wanted to use a little bit of the cherry wood, more as just like a little accent color. I didn't want to overdo it with the cherry, but I think it turned out exactly how I wanted it to look. And so now that it's finally complete, it's finally time to talk about what an anaerobic digester actually is. And so I actually just recently learned about the concept of an anaerobic digester. I learned about it through a YouTube video that recently came out by a channel called The Upshift. They released a video called Dyson Might Have Just Solved Vertical Farming. I'll be sure and post a link to that video in my video description, but that video came out a little over a month ago and it caught my attention. And I think it was perfect timing because when they described the anaerobic digester, I thought it would be the perfect fit for my recycling center here. So what an anaerobic digester does is you feed bio waste and biodegradable organic matter into the vat, and it decomposes that, and as it decomposes, it releases biogases such as CO2 and methane, and as a byproduct, the waste, once it's decomposed, can then be used as fertilizer after the process is complete. So that's how I thought that it would tie in really well with this. I've been wanting a bone meal farm for a while. I use a lot of bone meal in my builds and around my landscaping, so I've been wanting a bone meal farm, and I thought this was a perfect way to tie one in a way that fits in with the lore. So now, in theory, all of Soul Valley recycles their bio waste here, it's converted into bone meal, and then releases the biogas, which obviously in Minecraft, at least in vanilla Minecraft, there's no real biogases, but for the sake of lore, we are going to say that the biogas that comes from this is what's used to power various machines around Soul Valley. So this is just another form of clean energy in addition to, the wind turbines and the solar panels that are all over. I think it ties in really well. And so I did take some creative liberties. If you were to just do a Google image search of an anaerobic digester, they're basically just giant tanks, giant circular cylindrical tanks. There's not much complexity to the structure of an anaerobic digester. It's just a big round tank. So for example, one of my creative liberties was I put this funnel here, which is kind of the intake for the bio waste that comes in. I'm going to hop into free cam here. So in theory, as bio waste comes in, it would get dumped into here and fed into the tank. Probably not realistic if this were an actual real world situation. They'd probably want to feed it from the top and not the bottom, but I don't know, I thought it looked cool. And then, the pipe coming out the top this way, that's meant to be kind of where the biogas comes out and feeds into this tank down here. Again, probably not the most realistic in a real world application, but I thought it looked cool for this build. And then I built this ladder here. Not a functional ladder, just made with chains, but I think it looks really cool. And then this is meant to be kind of a mobile biogas tank that they can just cart around Soul Valley wherever they need to take it to resupply biogas where it's needed. So it gets filled up from here and then they can just cart it off wherever they need it. So let's go take a look and see how much bone meal we have up to this point. And I'm not going to decorate inside here, I don't think, because, you know, in the real world, you're not going to step inside of an anaerobic digester because it's filled with a bunch of waste. So I'm not going to bother decorating. This is just going to be for me to come and grab bone meal. So this is already full. This is full. That's empty. This is full. So we've got a lot of bone meal already. So this is working very efficiently. And with that being said, now that I have access to all of this bone meal, the last thing I want to do for this episode is do some landscaping in this area. Right now, I've just got all this grass that is stopping iron golems from spawning, but I want to make it look nicer. I want to do more than just grass. I want to get some flowers and, you know, maybe some rocks, maybe a little pond or tree, who knows. But I've done enough montages and enough time lapses for this episode, so I think I'm just going to do that work. I'm just going to grind it out, and then once I'm done with that, I will check back in, show you what I've done, and should be nearing the end of the episode at that point. I'm a big fan of how this looks as I approach from a distance with the crane kind of hanging over. You can kind of see the anaerobic digester poking up here just over the horizon. I think it's a nice touch, and I'm gonna make my way over where we just finished kind of landscaping and decorating. Something that I've seen a lot of other YouTubers do that I'm sure many of you have seen as well is highlighting comments that people leave on other videos of theirs, and I think that's something I would like to do as well. And so something I've never done before, but I just want to highlight a comment that was left on one of my older videos from a few months back. It was episode 4 of this series. And in that episode, it was the first time that I made these string lights by using leads and candles, and I think it looks really cool. Especially at night, it looks really good. And it's been a while since I've actually made these string lights. It's been since episode 4, and I got this comment from the user MysteriousOkapi4564, and they just pointed out the string lights, and it reminded me of how cool they are, and I decided I wanted to incorporate them into this as well, since this is kind of a similar concept, walking through this little corridor here. I think this looks really cool, and I appreciate Mysterious Okapi for reminding me of those so that I could add them to another area of my world, and I'll come back at night to kind of see how that looks at night, because I really like the way these look. But as we step through here, we can see now it is much more decorated. I just did kind of a combination of plants, flowers, and also other little things to make it look nice. So I put this kind of like boulder looking rock here. I made a pond over here. You may or may not have noticed that I really enjoy making ponds in this world. I've got one over by my base, by the recycling front office. I just really like building ponds. I love doing this as well with like the green, or in this case, lime stained glass with the brown candle on top to kind of look like a cattail. We've got the shipping containers back here, and I use these, oh, hey bud. I use these burnt out campfires here to kind of look like pallets. Since this is, you know, a recycling center, it's reasonable to think that stuff might be brought in on a pallet and maybe the pallet just gets left behind or sits there for a minute till someone can pick it up. Over here, I built a custom tree. Nothing too intricate, I just whipped this up. And I don't consider myself someone who's really good at building custom trees, but it can be fun to do, so I decided it's been a while since I made a custom tree, and I decided to throw one in here. We've got this little bench right here. Over here, I put a stack of raw iron, and then I covered it in tripwire just to make sure that iron golems couldn't spawn on it. But just got these blocks of raw iron. Since this is an iron recycling plant, I thought it made sense that those were there. And as we make our way over this way, as you can see, it just, in my opinion, looks really good. I love the crane up there, love the anaerobic digester. I also do think that this retaining wall looks a lot better now compared to before, how it just was like a straight line through here. Now it's got some kind of angles and depth to it. And yeah, I'm a really big fan of how this turned out. I decorated up this way as well. I put another pallet up here just because I thought that would be fitting. You know, maybe they bring something up on a pallet, the crane picks it up, and the pallet's just sitting there. I didn't spend too much time on this, but I think it turned out really nice, and it's really starting to tie together this whole recycling plant. So if we take a zoomed out look, now we've got the front office over here. People can enter this way. We've got the iron recycling plant. We've got the anaerobic digester where we can get our bone meal for fertilizer, and the hypothetical biogas to power Soul Valley. I'm really excited about this. I think it's turning out really good. And here we are at night to just show off these string lights, and yeah, I just love the way that these things look at nighttime, the way they just kind of cover the corridor. I also think it would be cool, you know how sometimes at like restaurants or bars that have like a patio, they have string lights kind of dangled over the patio. Maybe I'll try to do that in a build sometime soon. I don't have a particular plan for that, but that could be a fun way to incorporate those as well. Also, I just think that this area looks really nice at night. I added some firefly bushes, so we've got the ambience of the fireflies, and that's one of my favorite additions to this game is the firefly bushes. I love the sound. I'm gonna turn up the audio in this video so that you can hear the little cicadas and crickets and bugs coming from the firefly bush. All the fireflies floating around. I just love the ambience that they create. But I think that's all I've got for today's episode. If you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I appreciate all of you, and I hope to see you all in the next episode. Bye everyone.